Hey, what's up everybody? I am back at the wood yard here today and I'm going to get another load. So, judging by the title of this video, this is not a scientific method at all. I'm just kind of showing, how much I can fit into a standard F-150 pickup truck. The rounds are of all various sizes, as you can tell, which is kind of good because you can throw large ones like the one I'm putting in now, and then pack in smaller ones in all the gaps and just kind of pack them in. So it's just kind of a experiment. If you're interested to see, follow along and watch the video. But no matter how much I tell myself I'm just going to hurry up and get here and just throw a bunch of wood in it and be quick about it, once I get here, I always start sorting through everything, and I end up taking a long time. It's kind of deceiving the way the camera's sitting. Like some of those rounds that are facing the camera, like when you're looking down the length of the tree, they're not really like long enough to take for a good stick of firewood. Now, I mean, if I had to take them, I would and just cut them in large chunks. But they're only like 6 inches wide, some of them and stuff. I mean, you can see some of them, you can kind of tell what I'm talking about. And if they're standing up on their end and facing the camera, you can't really tell, but they may have like a big huge knot or a big rotten space in them, or they're only like 4 or 6 inches tall. So I have to kind of sort through it here. And then you're also getting in there, and I realize that there's a little bit of cherry over here, and this might be hickory, and this is oak, and what the heck is this? And there's no leaves on anything, and you just have a little bit of bark and a little bit of wood grain and a chunk of wood, and it's really hard to tell what some of it is sometimes. And a lot of it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're just putting it in the fireplace, it's just all mixed hardwood and it's not a big deal. But I do try to find some good stuff as much as I can, and I want to make it somewhat easy on myself to make sure that I can even split it. I mean, I don't want to get rounds home that have such a big huge knot or some double-hearted knotted up thing that you haul it home and carry this big thing home and you can't even split it. Now, I mean, I can use my chainsaw and rip it in half and everything, yes, but I'd like to split them, as easily as possible. So it ends up taking a little while to kind of root around through this pile and find everything. But I did find some cherry today. I got a bunch of oak and some other stuff that I think is elm, judging by the bark. I mean, it's got chunky bark, and when you break the bark in half and look at it, it's layered and with white and chocolate colored looking layers. But the bark is so chunky it almost looks like a big pine tree or something, but I'm fairly certain it's not pine that I'm grabbing. I'm pretty sure it's elm. It's some kind of hardwood. But I got some of that. I think that's hickory right there. Not positive, but I think. So anyways, I'm just going to kind of show loading up here today. I may speed it up, but check it out, and then I'll show unloading at the house and show you what the pile looks like when we're done. I don't know how many of you guys out there watching this are loyal watchers and have listened to everything that I said, but last video I was talking about how you just can't fit, like a cord of wood in the back of a standard size pickup or a bunch of wood. I mean, if you throw it in loose and it's split already, I think you can fit about a face cord or a third of a cord or a rick. So if it was already split and you stacked it and put it in there like a puzzle, like a Tetris game, you could fit a little more than a third of a cord or a rick. But with these big rounds, like I said last time, you can fit about 3 of them across the back of your truck, and then I guess you can pack some smaller rounds in the spaces in between and stuff. But that's about it. So I try to get as much in as I can and just pack it in as tight as possible, and then pull the lid down to where it's safe to drive. And I really don't know, even if I didn't have a hard tonneau lid, how much higher I would go. I mean, you can't mount it way up over that truck and then drive it down the road safely. I mean, you could possibly maybe use some type of ratchet straps or something if you wanted to try that. There's not a whole lot of places. There's only a couple places to use ratchet straps or tie downs. So you couldn't do that very easily. So I don't think you could get much more in than I am. I mean, you could maybe mount it up a little bit more. Again, it just starts to become an issue of safety. I mean, if you take a turn, this stuff shifts more than you realize it does. I mean, when you start driving and the truck's moving and shifting, it'll settle a little bit and shift. So then if you take a turn and logs go rolling out, yeah, you're going to have some pretty big problems. But the lid, I just don't think the lid is that much of a hindrance on me here. So whether you have a lid or whether you don't, you might be able to fit a little bit more into a standard size pickup, but I don't think much more. Another thing for you pickup truck owners, if you're looking at my bed liner and you see how it's all mounded up there like that, that's because this used to be a work truck, and I had a big heavy toolbox in the back of this truck, and it literally just flattened out that bed liner. I mean, it's got ribs like corrugated cardboard. It's one of those hard plastic bed liners, obviously not a spray in, but that toolbox just flattened out those ribs in that thing from sitting in there. And then when you take the toolbox out, it just gets all wavy like that. So yeah, it's got a little bit of wave in it, and I could tack it down or something, but it hasn't really bothered me, so to speak, other than the way that it looks. I mean, I just let it go. I mean, this is all I've been using my truck for, is like hauling wood and stuff, and it just doesn't bother me. But that's something to think about maybe if you're purchasing a truck or you have a toolbox, or if this could help anybody out, maybe you might want to spray in bed liner, or just be prepared that this is going to happen with this kind of bed liner. And they're replaceable, obviously, but I'm sure they're several $100s if you want to, keep replacing it. And another point about using your truck for firewood, I also have this guy that I have bought wood from locally in the past. When I buy wood, that's who I buy it from. And he drives a Dodge pickup with no bed liner in it at all. And you should see the bed of his truck. It is completely sunken in. Some of you guys may have seen this stuff before. And don't quote me on that. He might have a spray-in bed liner, but I think it's just a metal truck bed in a Dodge Ram truck. And it has like similar to like floor joists in a house that run across the bed from like left to right, from like one side, from one wheel well to the other, that are underneath it like braces or supports. But in between every one, it's like dipped down like 6 inches. I mean, really bad. Every one. I mean, this whole bed is just dip, 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 dip in between every one of those supports. So I keep thinking about that when I'm loading wood, and I mean, he does that a lot, but I guess, I mean, if you just keep throwing wood and just dropping, and you're just dropping wood and pounding in that truck, I mean, it's just like hitting it with a hammer every day, all day long, and it stretches that metal and just bends it all. So that's something else to think about if you're hauling firewood in a truck and you're going to do it a lot. You need to kind of like slide it in and get it to land on another piece or something so it doesn't just pound your bed to smithereens. I mean, yeah, that guy's bed is really funny, and I don't know if he's ever going to trade that truck in or anything, but I mean, it's getting quite a few miles on it, I'm sure, already or whatever, and it's just obviously a work truck now. But if he ever trades that in, the next person that looks at it is going to be like, what the heck went on here? It is really beat up. Something else that I'm thinking about while I'm looking through all this wood, um, the stuff that's closest to the camera or closest to my truck, closest to the road, is all the freshly dumped stuff. So it is basically green wood or whatever, not seasoned at all. But as you move back over towards the fence, all that stuff's been sitting there for God only knows how long, but it's already starting to season, and you can tell. I mean, you can see the discoloration, you can see where the sun's been bleaching it out. I mean, if you just know what dried wood looks like, you can tell. But in order to get to it, you have to carry it across that whole pile of wood, and it's not easy. I mean, you could break a leg or an ankle or fall down or, drop wood on yourself or whatever. So it's just really difficult to get to, and it's a shame that that's how this is happening, because if there was some other way to organize that to where you could get the older stuff out first, that would be nice. But I just think that this is a dump, and it just, it just gets dumped however it comes in. So I'm not real sure what's going to happen with all that, but I don't think I can get over there and carry that stuff all the way back to the truck across this whole pile of wood. Those logs right there with that real chunky looking bark are what I think is elm. If you have any other ideas of what that might be, let me know in the comments. But also, I wanted to mention, if you look to the far right of the screen, right where it cuts off, there's that piece that's kind of rotten with a hole in it. It looks like an animal could be living in it or something. And then right above that, I think that's a big hickory round. And that right there on the camera looks like, oh, why don't you grab that? But if you look at it in person, that's like a 23 or 25-inch long log, and it's about the same across, and that is a big piece of wood. So I didn't even want to grab that. One, because it's just long enough and it looks so hard to split that I don't really want to wrestle with it. So I mean, you could almost take your chainsaw and cut it down a little bit more, or what? But I mean, anyways, I'd have to wrestle that thing out of there and lift it by myself, and then deal with trying to split it by hand. So I mean, that's a perfect example of a piece that looks good, but in reality, I just don't really want to wrestle with it right now. And also, there's so much more wood there that it's just not worth fighting with that big thing if you can find other stuff. And that's again why I said, like, I say I want to get there and just hurry up and throw a bunch of wood in, but you kind of end up having to sort through it because, I mean, if you're looking for things that are manageable, you just kind of got to hunt them down a little bit. The next time I go, I might start parking my truck out of the way and throwing everything and then moving my truck close, because you just got to be careful when you're throwing wood at your truck. Obviously, that kind of presents a problem. I do end up hitting my truck right in the tailgate with a little piece of wood and a big old branch sticking off of it here in a little bit, so stay tuned. You'll see it here in a minute probably. And I think there was maybe one other kind of close call, but I mean, you're throwing wood at your truck like that. It could just go rolling. It could, do anything. So I might start getting my truck out of the way and doing all the throwing, and then back my truck up and close to a pile or close to the edge where I have everything staged, and then just load it up. Maybe a smart thing to do. So again, here you can get a pretty good view of 3 logs across the back of my truck, and then I'm just taking these smaller rounds and throwing it in all the little peaks and valleys and spaces. And I mean, that's going to be a pretty standard deal. This will kind of give, if you're watching this video because of the title, this kind of gives you an idea of what it's like. I mean, this is all pretty standard stuff when you're talking trees and firewood and rounds and that type of thing. I mean, you can see how big these rounds are, and the big ones, you get about 3 of them in, and the smaller ones you can put in the cracks. And if you had all smaller ones, you can really pack them in there better. And you might get a little bit more wood the more you pack them in there like that. But I'm not losing a ton of space with those big rounds. I mean, I filled in the spaces pretty good in all the gaps. I'm willing to bet this is probably going to be about a face cord of wood, maybe a little bit more. When I get this stuff home, I will keep it separated, and as I split it, we'll stack it, and then when I'm done with this truckload, I'll put a tape measure on it and measure it and see just exactly what it is. So we'll get a really good idea of what these kind of mixed size rounds end up like when it's all been split. That will probably take me a week or so because I'm doing it with a wood maul and an axe by hand. So I'll just do it in several splitting sessions each day and get my exercise because I'm trying to lose weight and do cardio. So I'm just kind of budgeting myself a nice little workout, several times a week or whatever. But we will eventually here in the next couple weeks find out exactly what this is. And I'm going to get it all stacked. I am waiting on wood chips at my house, and I'm just kind of all backed up because I'm going to take this stuff and stack it all, and I don't want to stack it first and then have the wood chips delivered and have to unstack it and then put the chips under the pallets and everything. But that's basically what's happening. There's no way around it. I got to get this stuff off my patio and get it drying and stacked. And I'm trying to get real far ahead in my firewood production here this year so I can sell some and be ahead going into not this winter but next winter and continue to make firewood and just get a couple years ahead. So that way if I want to sell some, I can sell it and I will still have plenty of wood to burn. And then once you come into the year after that, you'll still have wood left over to burn and sell, and you will have continued to make wood. So, just get real far ahead and always have wood that's seasoned. That's the way you got to do it. Okay, so now I just had to back my truck up because there's some good wood back here behind me that was just freshly dumped. And unfortunately I left my door open and the radio was playing, and I didn't really realize it till 5 or so minutes had went by. So I'm going to turn some music on here and turn the sound off on the video because the radio was on and the door was open of my truck, and I can't have copyright strikes on YouTube. So enjoy the music, and I'm just going to get the rest of this last little bit loaded up and ready to go. Here's a look at that piece of wood with metal sticking out of it. I probably am not going to take that home and wrestle with it because I don't know how far in the wood that goes or whatever, but that's a sign or a piece of a mailbox or something interesting. There's just plenty of other wood to choose from here, so it's not really worth bringing that home and messing with it just to make a YouTube video because I'm gonna have to throw some of it away anyways. It has metal in it and just it looks like kind of a difficult piece to split anyways. Here we are back at the house, and I just did kind of a pan around the empty spot where I'm going to be dumping all this wood, so you'll be able to see the size of the pile that comes out of my truck. Now you can see that there's kind of a mess there of some rounds that were already there, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a little bit difficult to keep them separated, but I mean, I know what I got, and I could probably separate this stuff and then split it all and just see how much it is. So stay tuned, Firewood fans, because over the next week or so, we're going to get that done. I'll post the videos of me splitting it and measuring it, and I'll probably have to restack this stuff twice, which nobody likes to do because I'm going to have to handle this wood several times, and I'm going to stack it all and measure it. Then I'm going to have to tear it all down and put mulch down under it and then restack it all. But once that finally gets done, I'll be able to just make stacks and put it in cord rows or whatever and just let it sit back there in season. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Okay, so if you made it this far, congratulations and thanks for watching. This is the finished product, and this is the pile of wood out of a standard size F150 pickup. Check the links in the description and go buy some bungee cords and whatever else I post in there. Y'all have a good day. Hope you learned something. Hope you found this useful and enjoyed it. I'll talk to y'all later.